Welcome, babies, to Gabbing the Ghouls, the section of our podcast where we gab ghouls of movies / whatever we want to talk about of things we've seen since the last time we recorded an episode.
Yeah.
So smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holding up a big sign, 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10? Come on.
I think that was
compelling.
I'm
8
holding
out
up a
of
big
10.
sign that just says ghouls.
Yeah, my sign just says rah.
Holding up a big saw that says bone saw kill him.
Yeah.
Which I think
okay,
leads.
So I think I've only watched like one thing. So
Yeah,
Did you watch?
somebody I know at least one of us has watched quite a few more than one thing. So we're not
I
one of
wonder who
those
that might
people.
Noah and I saw The First Omen and Abigail. So I'll let Noah take The First Omen and I'll take Abigail.
Nice.
So I've watched 15 movies since last we recorded.
That's more than
I wanted to count.
Not many of those were horror.
A lot of them were James Bond.
Yeah.
4 of them, in
okay.
fact.
Nice.
But yeah, First Omen. I've been seeing a very popular opinion surfacing that the original Omen run sucks ass. And while I think that was very popular for Omen 2 and 3, the original Omen from the 70s is one of those that I know I've seen it.
There's an
And I
Omen from
remember-
the 70s?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
The original Omen. Not the first Omen, but the first Omen.
the first actual Omen. No, I thought it was like not a newer franchise, but a franchise that started like while I was in high school-ish. 'Cause
Oh,
I
no,
remember
it's got,
seeing
like-
the trailers.
It's got like Cary
Nope.
Grant in it.
Yeah, it's old as
Okay.
shit. It's what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? It's peers with The Exorcist.
Mm.
It was never it's in certain circles held in the same regard, but it never had the same kind of mass public following as The Exorcist. All that being said, I didn't remember liking it. I'm going to try and return to it because I think that's only fair, when I think the first Omen, the one that was released a week and a half ago, is really, really good. It's really fantastic. If you like Catholic horror, which, as we all know, revolves around nuns and demons. You know,
Yeah, those
we
are the
love
two
nuns and
basic
demons.
elements
There's
of
some
Catholic
priests in
horror,
here.
yeah.
Theology.
You know,
Is there a priest who smokes?
There is.
Yeah, there
actually,
is.
the nuns all
Fuck
smoke
yes,
too. There's a
all
moment
right.
where the nuns are jumping
Oh.
on a trampoline and cutting potatoes, and they're all like,
Chain
every single
smoking.
one of them is chain smoking.
I am so confused right now.
There's
What?
a
Interesting.
great excommunicated priest played by the guy who was the dad in The Witch, and he was my favorite character.
Yeah.
Yo, all
Yeah, he
right.
comes in and he does his like weird accent monotone, begging
That's
us
just
to.
his voice.
Yeah, I know. He does his weird accent monotone at us, saying, "I am begging you to please get the Antichrist child out of there because we cannot let them birth the Antichrist." The
Would
Antichrist
the
level 2.
Antichrist be
Isn't that just Christ?
Jesus?
No, but
Don't you want
it's very
that?
good though.
Deploy the
If
counter
you are
Christ.
down with that stuff, you know, it's classic like Immaculate Conception Catholic horror. If that's not something you're into, or if it's something that you think you might enjoy but don't want to see it in a giant theater shoved in your face like that, I get that. I respect it. It is a movie that I think was a really good time though.
Yeah.
And I would be very happy to watch it again. Excited, speaking of Immaculate, to try and catch that now that it's hitting streaming services. We missed it by 1 day.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Very sad. Yeah.
Those are both
the First Omen.
movies. Both First Omen and Immaculate, but also Abigail. I want to see them all, but
Cannot recommend catching Abigail in the theaters enough and ignoring everything that the trailers have told you. But I'll let
I would
Nina
not
take
say
this
that
one.
necessarily. I would say that the trailers are not the best marketing for this movie, but it was really fun. It was exactly what I wanted it to be. Abigail. I was super pumped for it. Was it Radio Silence, the guys who did
Radio
Ready or
Silence
Not
did
and
this. Okay.
Screams 5 and 6.
And the best section from VHS OG.
And they have done another banger. It pretty much operates on its concept about as much as you'd want it to. All of the performances were so fun.
Cool.
Melissa Barrera, obviously great. Catherine Newton, always great. Kevin Durant's my little special interest right now, and
he was really
and he
great.
was really good. And the guy from Apostle plays this sleazeball like asshole, and he has this really like obnoxious like Queen's accent that just gets stronger as the movie goes on.
Oh,
and
hell
it was
yes.
so fun. So, I would absolutely recommend Abigail. I loved it, and I actually want to see it in theaters again. I will totally I'm gonna get it on Blu-ray. This is like a new comfort movie for me. I think it was just a really fun time.
Mm-hmm.
It looks
no,
like
we
so
will be
much
acquiring
fun.
this. It's a very good time, and the previews do not prepare you for how like funny this movie is.
Yeah, it is a horror comedy, but it definitely has the vibes of a lot of the movies we've been watching recently. Down to the one thing that I will say, which is that it does fall apart in the third act, but I find that charming. So.
Also, when we say horror comedy, do not expect it to be like the horror comedies that we have watched on this podcast. It is a funny horror movie. I would not say it's a horror comedy. It's a comedic horror.
So kind of like
like Blood Quantum, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
or
much
bodies,
more Blood
bodies,
Quantum
bodies.
adjacent.
It reminds me of Freaky in a lot of ways. Where it's like the premise takes front and center stage. Like we are not pulling punches on our premise, but it's funny.
Yeah, it's not comedy like Tucker and Dale or Cabin in the Woods. It's not like set up jokes like that. It is just a very funny movie that is... Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is a pretty decent comp.
Okay.
Yeah.
Neat.
I love Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
It's a fun one. It's
Now I have-
real good.
I have one that I want to talk about and two that I want to touch on. Firstly, Spider-Man came back into theaters. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
I'm so mad I work tomorrow night because Spider-Man 2 is in theater tomorrow night.
But we did already watch it again. We watched it at home because we knew we wouldn't be able to catch it in theaters.
Yeah.
Can you ever get
really
too
nice
much?
seeing the original Spider-Man on the big screen. Just kind of cool.
Especially, it was a pretty active audience. There was like a 4 or 5 year old kid 2 seats down from me. And like the movie gets started and I hear her dad lean over and like have to quiet her down and go like, no, sweetie, Miles isn't in this one. I was like, no.
Miles is real cool little kid. I agree.
He is. She's
Miles
right.
is
She's
a very
so right.
cool guy, but yeah, no, this is Peter. So I think she had a good time though. I was more worried about whether or not she was enjoying the movie than myself at that point. I kept like glancing over and I'm like, she's still watching. She
And
was
she
not.
was.
She was crushing popcorn into the floor for a good half of the movie, but she also
Like
was...
God intended. First.
Yeah.
That's what theaters are for. The theaters are back, baby. Woo! Let's see. I watched Death Proof, Quentin Tarantino's Grindhouse movie.
Yeah.
Really, really fun. An actually incredibly good time. This was the extended cut that does not have... It's not set up to be played with Planet Terror, the Robert Rodriguez movie.
Yeah.
And as such, it also didn't have the fun connecting like trailers and everything. But it was a good time. And I think if you like car stunts, this is very much a movie that's worth your time. That's
the one where the guy gets
funny.
into car accidents on purpose, right?
Yeah, because he's a stuntman and has his car set up to... It's a death-proof car for the driver. Get it?
Right.
Good time. But what I really want to talk about is I watched my first Lars von Trier movie.
Oh.
And that was
treat you?
really, really good. I watched The House That Jack Built.
Okay.
And in my readings, I have discovered a few things. One, not maybe the best movie of his to begin with, because a lot of this is... He says a lot of this is trying to critique like Trumpism and shit. But a lot of other people have also read this movie as him talking to his critics saying, listen, art is kind of edgy and meant to push envelopes, and that's why I do what I do. But also, yeah, sometimes I'm not sure how to feel about it either anyway, so I'm sending myself to hell.
Okay, those are two very different statements.
Yeah.
It's I know that like making edgy art is what I have to do. I don't have any other option. I don't have any other art that I'm interested in making. But if you think that makes me a bad person, I'm willing to accept that. It's not going to change how I make my art. Was basically how
that's basically now.
But then where does Trump come in?
Yeah.
I didn't read any of the interviews where he talks about Jack, the serial killer of the movie. comparing him to Trump. But there are moments in the movie where he literally does he tells people what he's going to do to them, and they think he's just weird. He confesses his crimes to a cop, and the cop's like, "Lady, get your drunk boyfriend off the streets before I have to pick you both up. Like, stop making a scene."
Kinda
Stuff like that.
At the end of American Psycho, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So
Does
it's like,
just go around being like, "I'm gonna cut off your leg." that was my try to Trump impression.
Yes, also. It was I'm gonna say good experience. It's on Hulu at the moment. Jeff, if you want to check it out. I think the movie's really funny. There's this David Bowie song that's used as like a sting throughout the entire thing, and it's really funny. But it's made me very interested in checking out some more of this guy's work.
Everything I know about his other work has made me want to just kind of steer clear of him casually, but
Okay, I gotta break in here. I was in the Tumblr tag for this movie for 30 seconds, and I found ship art of Jack and Patrick Bateman.
Incredible.
Well, there
makes
we
sense.
go.
They're like the same guy, except Jack is much more weird about it than Patrick Bateman is.
Why haven't
Which
we
is
done an
saying
episode about
something.
American Psycho yet? We gotta do that.
We do. I'm looking forward to the day we eventually do that.
It's a Christmas movie, so
It is a Christmas movie. Yeah,
Oh, there we go. We'll just put that one up for this year.
Yeah, coming
Okay.
this December, everyone.
Any other ghouls?
y'all seen Jumanji recently? By the way.
No, your turn is over.
No, please. I have so much more to talk about.
Jeff, you go.
Yeah, I've got a non-horror ghoul. I watched Hotel Artemis the
I
other
don't
night.
know that one.
It's got a bunch of people in it that you might recognize, actually. It's got Dave Bautista and Jodie Foster. It came out in 2018. I remember seeing trailers for... Oh, Nina, you specifically, because of Jodie Foster reasons, you're going to love her in this movie. You really need to watch this movie specifically because of her. She plays this, like, old and worn out and bitter doctor who works in a hospital that specifically caters to criminals in a not too distant future version of Los Angeles.
And she's single and she wants to kiss me.
It's never outright stated, but she never says that she doesn't want to kiss you, so...
Interesting.
Good. I'm in.
It's really good, though, and... It's a specific, like, not too distant future flavor of sci-fi that I really enjoy. It's got technological advancements in it that feel, futuristic, but very, very believable given everything that we, know right now. It came out in 2018, and the movie takes place during what is described in the movie as the most violent riots that Los Angeles has ever seen. And it's about everyone's water getting shut off. Because the company that controls everyone's water wants to charge too damn much for it.
Nestle.
So, yeah, very
Nestle.
topical. It's a lot of ideas in the movie that just are problems that have never gone away, and it holds up real good, I think. I really liked it. Everyone in it does a real good performance, and it's got a lot of people in it that I like watching.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
Can't say enough good about it. Very, very fun watch. It's also got a, femme fatale assassin character who doesn't fall into all of the tropes of that kind of character in the ways that you might worry about.
That's
which
fun.
was pretty nice.
Yeah.
Some, but not all,
Rotten Tomatoes has this at a 57%.
Really? That's low.
Yeah.
They're wrong.
Hey, everybody, you're wrong, actually.
I've gone against Rotten Tomatoes before, and I will do it again, and this is one of those times. They're wrong. This movie's good. I liked it a lot. It's fun.
Nice. Yeah, it's got a really impressive cast, like Jeff Goldblum, Dave Bautista.
Dave Bautista's really, really good in it, as he always
I
is.
love me some Dave Bautista.
He has never let me down.
Brian Tyree Henry, Charlie Day.
Charlie Day.
Charlie Day is such a
Yeah.
perfect piece of shit. Oh my god.
I love him.
That's good to hear because I feel like I'm usually really hit or miss with him in movies, and it bums me out.
Yeah.
He's just been Charlie for so long that's the kind of character we always expect him in, right? In this one, though, he's just a man with too much money and an ego the size of a planet. And you hate him the whole time.
Can't believe he's playing Dennis.
Yeah, he's... yeah, he's the golden god. He is just Dennis.
Iconic.
What do you got, though, Emma?
Why, thank you so much for asking. So as an update, on my journey to get VTubers into horror.
Hell yes.
I watched Bly Manor with the VTuber.
Okay.
And we finished it in a few days, and it was a great experience. They were very confused throughout the show, and I was like, it's very confusing on a first watch.
It comes together,
I understand. It comes together. But then, as you do in the last episode, she was crying like the entirety of the episode and emotionally destroyed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she really wants to show her husband now because they got married yesterday.
Aw.
She really wants to show him all of these shows, and I was like, this one in particular, when you watch it again, it's going to make way more sense, and you're going to be able to follow it way better. But
Also, I'm going to say, following, like, Hill House with Bly Manor, if you're in the Hill House mentality, especially about, like, ghosts and everything, it's a doubly hard show to follow. Initially,
it does it so differently.
Because you have to think of new ghost rules.
Yeah. Well, we had Midnight Mass in between.
Yeah, so then it's
then
like,
now-
where's
That's
the
a good way to shake it up.
vampires?
Now, at this point, we're going to start House Usher soon.
Nice.
And I've also prepared them for kind of, this is not as sad of a show as the other ones. This is not the one that's going to emotionally destroy you as much, because we're basically
As much.
watching shitty rich people kind of
Get theirs.
get their just desserts. But yeah, so that's going great. We're having a great time there.
Hell yeah.
And then the only movie I've seen since the last podcast episode is not a horror movie, but it is a great movie, and it is Dev Patel's Monkey Man.
Ooh.
I cannot wait to see that.
Yeah, so much fun. Great directorial debut from Dev Patel. Great trans representation as well.
Cool.
And just really great story and time in general. Me and Piper saw it in the movie theater. Halfway through, the power went out. And we had to sit around for like 15 minutes as they were fixing things and like getting things back to like the right time. But yeah, ton of fun, really amazing and brutal action sequences. And yeah, loved it. After that, I haven't watched any other. I've been watching a lot of anime lately, and I'm not going to talk about that. But I did finish reading Clown in a Cornfield 2.
I'm about halfway through. I had to take a pause because I had a lot going on this week, but I'm very excited to get back into it.
Yeah. It's a great time. I loved it. I had a wonderful time, and I'm so excited for the third book coming out.
Heck yeah.
Cool. Hell yeah.
But with all of that out of the way, why don't we jump into our episode?
Ooh, why don't we?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Casual Obsession, the horror movie podcast where we talk about horror movies. Since it's been a while since we've started this, and a lot of us are gender fucky, as some might put it.
Some might.
I would
Some
put it
might.
that way.
Yeah. So we're going to introduce ourselves, but going forward, when we do our introductions, we're going to try to say our pronouns as well, just for any newcomers or anybody else in the future who might be listening. So I'm Emma, your host for today, and I use they, them pronouns. Who else is here with me? Jeff.
My name is Jeff, and I also use they, them pronouns.
Nina.
Boop boop. Hi, I'm Nina. I use she and they pronouns. And I don't really have a preference, but I will like you more if you use they, them.
That sounds like a preference.
That sounds like a preference almost. Noah.
I'm Noah. I use the boy one. No, I'm Noah, and I use he, they pronouns.
Perfect. Incredible. Iconic. Today, we are talking about the movie Talk to Me. This movie came out in 2022. Holy shit, I thought it came out last year.
It
was
hit
recent.
theaters in 23.
Yeah, this is another
Summer of
festival
23.
circuit.
Oh,
festival
okay.
circuit movie.
We're not.
So it kind of came out in 2022, but really it came
in another
out in
far more
2023.
real sense, it came out in 2023.
Yeah. I think this movie has the pleasure of being the first movie that we all saw in theaters and gabbed about in a podcast episode, and now we're doing a full episode on it. Because it's great, and we really enjoy this movie, and we're excited to jump in and talk about it. To give you all a quick little teaser of what this movie is about, there's this creepy kind of stony embalmed hand that these partygoers will kind of light a candle, tie you up, and shake the hand, and then you say, "Talk to me," and a spirit appears across from you, and then you can say, I let you in," or something, and it possesses you for a brief amount of time.
A lot of the concept of the movie is just what if getting possessed was a thing that kids did at parties?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I kind of love that.
The rule is that you're supposed to break the possession, which to do that, you basically remove the hand from the possessed person before 90 seconds. However, our main character in this movie, when she does it, it goes over 90 seconds. And then we get to see the consequences of that, and a bunch of other things happen. And we'll talk about that past the spoiler break. But Noah, can you tell us a little bit about the critical reception of this movie?
Why, of course I can.
What is this voice you're doing?
Well, this is my critic voice. I'm a high-class critic fellow. I don't know. Every now...
This man's swirling
not
a
getting
glass
into
of
this.
brandy right now.
No one can see. Shut up, Jeff.
There's a roaring fireplace behind him.
Shut up. IMDb, we got 7.1 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes, 95%. Metacritic, 76%. Letterboxd, 3.6 out of 5. Pretty generally positive reviews here. I feel like I remember at some point them marketing certified fresh 100% Rotten Tomatoes as part of their theater run. So I'm wondering if it just got bumped down a little bit toward the end of it, because when Rotten Tomatoes puts those numbers out, they don't take consumer numbers into that equation. It's just the critic numbers. For what it's worth, I only ever pull the critic numbers when we're looking at Rotten Tomatoes stuff. I'm not looking at audience stuff. I don't give a shit what audiences think. That's
we don't care what you all think.
Yeah, that's the unwashed masses. What are we going to listen to them for?
Yeah, IMDb is for the unwashed masses opinion. Letterboxd is for the cool cats opinion. And then Metacritic is there too.
Yeah, Metacritic is also there.
I don't know jack shit about Metacritic. I don't know
how that works.
I signed up to make an account 13 years ago.
Oh.
And I never used it. I don't even think it exists anymore. Anyway, I got an Ebert for us today. This is from Nick Allen. He's one of our new Ebert contributors, new to us, not new to the system. He was their editor-in-chief for a while.
Okay.
So he's given it a 3 out of 4. Now, Nick Allen's new for us. The Sean in the audience will be excited to know he gave Thanksgiving a 3 out of 4, as well as Talk to Me.
Oh, huge
however,
news for Sean.
I know. However, unfortunately, the Noahs in the cast are going to be very annoyed because he makes a Tide Pod joke in the first paragraph of the Talk to Me review.
Why?
Oh.
That's not even a thing.
It's because
in the movie.
It's because the boys are prank channel YouTubers.
Oh, right. Yeah.
No, it's not even that. It's something else. But
Is it about the fucking millennials and the fucking Gen Zers? Is that
No,
it?
you'll have to shut up and read the review linked in the bio. But I chopped up his review into 4 little segments, which I will read to y'all real quick. Danny and Michael Philippos Talk to Me cleverly imagines a deadly craze that would easily sweep a generation. This horror movie's plausibility is one of the freakiest things about it. The social media feeding frenzy involves spiritual possession made possible by grasping a ceramic-encased severed hand graffitied with names and symbols that suggest a long line of previous owners. It's a brilliant device for a modern horror story. Daley Pearson is credited as the concept's creator, and a franchise waiting to happen. Talk to Me could easily lead to higher body count or a more directly spooky story in its sequels, but the game begins small here with a sincere pitch that aims for the gut. The first installment is about watching someone be possessed by horrible ideas of grief and the damage their decisions inflict on their loved ones. The second half of Talk to Me suffers from being yet another recent horror movie built on the trauma of loss, but it gets a special amount of layers from Sophie Wilde's excellent performance. It's not just about Mia trying to hold on to contact with her mother, but her need to not lose her new family, that of Jade, Riley, and their protective mother, Sue, played with dry toughness by Miranda Otto. In the process, we ache for Mia to be okay, especially since she's such a bright personality. Whether or not we get more rounds with this Hand of Fate, which, side note, there's a prequel and I believe a sequel coming from the same crew here. Talk to Me lingers as a striking and confident directorial debut for the Filippos, whose penchant for hyperactive YouTube fight and prank vids is mostly evident in this movie's emotional carnage. With such a playful send-up on a possession story, the Filippos have successfully crossed over into feature filmmaking, but it will take a little more genuine ingenuity for us to keep thinking about them. Once again, 3 out of 4.
Okay.
Let's see. And then on the Twitter Brandon thing, I talked about this a little bit before we started recording, but Brandon liked it. Brandon thought that this was a fun movie. It got the little heart react on Letterboxd and everything, which he usually, since he only rates half star and 10 star now, it's not a perfect movie and it's not a shit movie.
Sure.
He seemed to like a lot of reviews that range in the 3 to 3.5 range.
I can't believe we're reverse engineering a star rating from Brandon, who has stopped giving star ratings.
To stop. Yes, exactly.
He will give star ratings.
Unfortunately, because someone was being really weird in the review that he actually posted, he did have to delete the review because he didn't feel like having to prune his comment section of that. So I don't have anything to pull from the review. I just remember him saying that he did really enjoy it and thought that it was a really good concept movie.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Amazing. Cool. Well, with all of our critic reviews out of the way, why don't we hear what you all thought? We obviously, if you go back and find whatever the fuck episode it was where we gabbed this movie, you could find our general impressions. But I don't think we probably attached a number rating to them.
No.
So, Nina.
Yeah, Nina. That's me. I'm like a Pokemon. I gotta say my own name. Yeah, I really like this movie. I liked it a lot when it came out. I remember the party scene. We were at the theater for a different movie while it was still in theaters, and I could hear the music for the party scene starting up when I went to the bathroom for this other movie, and I legitimately walked into the theater, Talk to Me was playing in, and watched the theater scene, and then went back to the movie that I was actually there for. And I think it's just really fun. There's a lot of movies that have premises like this that just aren't, they don't it feels like Smile or the Tarot movie that's coming out, or a lot of these Truth or Dare
or a Ouija style movie, or
Ouija style a Blumhouse gimmick horror movie, and that's what I thought it was going to be when I first saw the trailers. And it ended up being closer, I think, to the Babadook on levels of what it's discussing and how it gets into its themes, and I really enjoyed it. I don't think it's perfect. I do think the second half of the movie does some stuff that was a little predictable and I didn't enjoy as much.
Yeah.
But overall, it was really fun, and I'd say a 7 out of 10.
Nice. Amazing. That's lower than I thought you were going to give it.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, though.
That's valid. That's okay. Jeff.
I think I'm giving it an 8, actually, because there are a handful of things that I feel like it could be doing differently that I would perceive as it doing better. I'm not going to say, necessarily whether my idea of what this movie could be is the best possible version of it, because, I don't know, I haven't made a movie, so what do I know? But, there's a handful of things it could do differently that I think would hit better for me, but there's just so much in the way that it approaches the themes that it's hitting that I really, really like. It's shot in some really, really fun ways. The music in it almost invariably fucks. There's a lot to love in this movie. I think the performances from almost everyone are pretty much perfect. A lot of very likable characters, even when they're doing shit that you hate. It's just real well done, I think. I'm really not looking forward to the sequel and the prequel, though, because I definitely feel as though this is one of those things where, if you throw a bunch of explainy world building into it, or even non-explainy world building, I just feel like delving too much into more of this story is going to be a mistake.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm worried more for the prequel specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I think a sequel where we follow Riley post-trauma could be really interesting.
From what I gather, the prequel is supposed to be entirely like a
Found footage,
not
phone
found
camera.
footage, but they describe it as screen life, where it's all just through phone cameras and stuff. Yeah, basically found footage. And I do feel like that's the correct way to do this story.
I think I have faith in these creators to be interesting with it. I don't want world building though. I do just want this. I just want this movie again. I want different characters with different motivations doing the same thing that happened in this movie to see how different people react to the same scenario.
Yeah.
I don't want them to find out anything more than these people found out. I think we know about all we need to know. But
if it raises your faith in the prequel at all, they actually made it. They did all the filming for it like immediately after making this one, like X and Pearl, basically. So there is that.
Yeah,
but...
I'm looking. I will watch them for sure. But what's your rating on this one though?
Yeah. Oh, did I not say that first? I'm sorry. 8.
8. Okay.
Oh, they did say that actually.
Did they? I did not.
Yeah.
Oh no, I didn't
paid
hear.
attention.
Oh, that's on me. Anyway.
I'm out here scrolling all the way back on my fucking diary on Letterboxd to see what other movies I watched around Talk to Me. Just for context of my rating, which I kept. I kept the same rating as when I saw it in theaters. This is a huge day for Noah.
This is huge for 9-star Noah.
Really
Now,
big.
granted. Stop trying to get a peek at my rating.
I can see what you rated it here. It's on the screen in front of me. I wanted to see what other movies we saw in theaters around the same time.
So I think there's a part of me that thinks I might have rated this 7 out of 10, which is my rating for the movie. I rated it 7 out of 10 when we saw it, but we had also, in the lead up to watching that, watched both Barbie and Oppenheimer. And also, I saw Insidious: The Red Door.
I know what movie it was that I stepped into the theater during.
It was Barbie, right?
It was Last Voyage of the Demeter.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh.
See, because we watched that on the 28th of July, and then on the 10th of August, we watched Last Voyage. That's 100% the one that I was like, I don't care enough to, I'll miss 30 seconds of Last Voyage of the Demeter.
Whatever.
But yeah, I think this movie's great. I think that the beginning of the movie is, for better or worse, I think it might be the strongest short contained bit of it, because it definitely feels like a short that never gets expanded upon. Like you don't really know what's going on, and then it just ends, and it's like one of those like 2-minute, 3-minute shock value YouTube shorts, you know?
Yeah.
Which are good. You can expand those into greater concepts. People do it all the time. But I don't know. The rest of the movie is still really fun. I have a lot of fun with various different moments that we'll talk about later. But for whatever reason, it does just land at a 7 for me. 7 with a heart emoji. Other nearby heart emoji winners are X-Men Origins Wolverine, which gets a 2.5 stars with the heart emoji.
Me.
And Barbie.
Literally me.
Barbie, which gets 4.5 stars with the heart emoji. There's a spectrum here.
Incredible. Iconic.
But what about you, Emma?
What about Emma? What about the host of this episode?
I was wondering, but I didn't want to ask.
Yeah. So I think this is a very fun movie. I really enjoy it. Saw it in theaters, obviously, and just the kind of like shock value of some of the scenes in this movie sticks with you so well.
It does.
And at the time of its release was like all people were talking about, was because like it really sticks with you. And it's very striking, and the story itself is like a pretty fun time, and I enjoyed it. I think overall I'm gonna give it an 8, and we'll talk about all of the things that go into that and everything. But overall, even though we're rating it like 7 and 8s and all of that stuff, it is a very good movie.
Yeah, big positive review.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, big positive reviews. There's just like, this is their directorial debut, and apparently they were offered to have their directorial debut be for a DC movie.
I saw that
and
today.
they turned that down. Yeah,
Based.
this is wild.
Absolutely
based,
based.
honestly.
Yeah.
You gotta
Great
actually
move.
develop who you are before you're willing to sell away your soul to do a franchise superhero movie.
Yeah,
And also you
absolutely.
shouldn't do that, but that's a different conversation.
But yeah, 8 out of 10. Great time. Love the movie. Lots of fun. I think one of one of the hard things for me when I watched it the first time was we don't get a lot of Australian movies kind of getting wide releases. Like we have English movies and American movies, and like every once in a while we'll see horror movies from like Korea or Japan getting a lot of attention. But when I first went into this movie, I think both me and Piper struggled with the accent and understanding the accent at times. Yeah. And so for me in particular, watching this on Netflix and having subtitles was very helpful.
Life-changing, actually. I get it.
Yeah. So great stuff. But before you check this movie out, if you haven't seen it already, there are some content warnings to know about. Noah, can you run us through those, please?
Of course I can. Content warnings. We have child harm, graphic child harm.
It's tough.
Yeah.
That is the biggest one, one of the biggest ones.
A couple of the other things in the list directly relate back to them happening to a child, so.
Yeah.
We do have graphic suicide and attempts, depression and suicide conversations, addiction allegory. There's a scene where one guy makes out with a dog.
Yeah.
Depiction of a traffic accident and sexual assault.
Yeah.
Despite this, it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's really...
That makes it sound difficult. It's not. It's really fun.
It's a very easy to watch movie. It's just got a lot of stuff that makes you go, oh!
It's got a handful
it does
of,
a lot
like,
of...
very visceral.
It's got a handful of, like, oh, please don't make me look at that moments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, oh my God, make it stop moments.
Yeah, there's a good bit of that.
Yeah.
I think it does a lot of stuff that shit, like, again, like Truth or Dare or The Bye-Bye Man wishes that it could fucking do. And it's like, well, maybe if you guys didn't pull your punches, you could be talk to me.
I just remembered one other content warning.
Oh?
This has probably one of the more gnarly shots of eye stuff happening.
Oh my God, yeah.
That's a tough one, yeah.
That was really rough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Eye stuff.
But still a great time.
It's still a good time. A really fun movie.
A lot of the worst of the stuff happens at the same time.
It happens in such like dense batches, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh God, what a movie.
When you're assigning labels to
my...
things, sometimes things seem heavier than they are.
Yeah.
And while these are all things that happen in the movie, it's not like my mind has been returning often to The Black Coat's Daughter with Oz Perkins' new movie Longlegs coming out soon.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a movie where I would not have a lot of things to trigger, but the entire movie is just a trudge of pure misery.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And if you were to compare that film's content warnings that we dig up to this, you would be coming away with the wrong impression, I think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know why I feel like every now and then I really feel the need to like couch our content warnings with like a calm down, don't worry about it.
But that's why they're
stance.
content warnings and not trigger warnings anymore, is because it's like this stuff is in the movie. That's all that this is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, this shit's gonna fuck you up. It's like, hey, it's in there.
Yeah.
Just be aware.
I think specifically just to call out the SA a little bit, it's not, when we say SA, it's not what you're expecting. It's a very like weird thing involving feet.
Yeah.
It's
non-consensual,
in the way that it plays
consensual,
out, but also like
But yeah, well, you'll hear about it. We're gonna bring it up in the summary probably. So
Yeah.
And even if we don't, we're probably going to talk about it.
it's gonna come up, I'm sure.
And this is one that I'll say talking about the summary is not going to ruin, like if you listen to the spoiler summary and you haven't seen the movie, I don't think it's going to ruin your viewing experience, because this movie is like,
it's very visual.
It's very visual. It's very much an experience, the performances and the music and everything working together.
Yeah.
So even knowing the story, this movie is still worth watching. That's not your license to listen to the spoiler review without watching it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do want to shout out a specific content warning and have a mini discussion really quick.
Okay.
Because I think it's interesting when we say child harm, the child we are referencing is, I think, in like middle school.
He's
probably.
like 13
He's
in the movie.
15, I think was what they said.
15 in the movie. He's 17 now.
Okay. But the other kids are I think, still in high school.
Yeah,
right?
they're all like 17, 18, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the cutoff for child harm? Like
18.
18, you think?
That's
I
the cutoff
think
for
it-
child, so...
Here's
Yeah.
the thing. I think that it depends on. I think it's more subjective. I think it depends on the
very
tone
much.
of the movie and everything. Because in this
Mhm.
one, it's shocking because the child is a character that everyone else is trying to protect, and everyone else is treating like a child, and who is the most vulnerable person in the film, and is
Yeah.
like victimized repeatedly, and that makes it more sensitive and more like child harm than what happens to characters that are only a couple years older, because they are all treating each other as peers and equals with
Yeah.
like motivations and stuff. But with
Yeah.
Riley, it's like that's a baby.
Mhm.
Everyone else in the group has agreed that's the baby, and that's why it's
He
worse.
shows up at a party at one point and someone says, "Oh, we're babysitting."
Yeah. True.
So I think it depends. It's similar for like It, right? Like all those characters are children, but it's worse when we see like the 12-year-olds in It Chapter 2 against the adults. It's like we just watched an entire movie of middle schoolers going through this shit, and then we have one scene in It Chapter 2 with a kid, and it somehow feels way worse. So
Yeah. True. That makes sense. Yeah. I think part of it also has to do with in Hollywood / other, like, not necessarily Hollywood, but still kind of Hollywood, like movie making industry people, when you have high schoolers,
Yeah.
they're really like 20 years old or like mid-20s,
Or
and they're playing high
35
schoolers.
if you're watching the first Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire.
True. But then when you actually cast a kid, like, it makes a difference, and like how the audience perceives them.
Also, it's like,
But cool.
I feel like it's really common, like, sort of narratively, to treat 16, 17, 18-year-old kids as though they are adults already, like, in the context of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of get used to that, and then you see them, I don't know, kind of like Nina said, dealing with this other kid, and he's younger, and they've all decided that's a baby.
Yeah.
It's like there is sort of a contrast between him and them.
Yeah. True. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Is there some segment that we do before the spoiler discussion?
there is,
I
and I was
always
actually
forget.
really curious about it because we've been talking about the shock value, and you saw this in theaters, and I would like to I want the scary rating, but I'm kind of curious about the scary rating from OG theater viewing Emma more than I am about this Emma. If you remember, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think
Give me your
From
oldest
OG
opinion that you have.
yeah.
Give it to me
From
raw.
OG
Wait.
theater experience, it is interesting because there are some things that I found more disturbing watching at home this time around than I did in the theater.
Oh.
But OG theater experience, the shock value scenes come up very quickly, typically. There's not with horror generally, you have a lot of like build up and atmosphere kind of leading into these scarier, creepier scenes, or even like jump scares typically don't happen in a vacuum. They happen within the context of a larger scene where there's an eeriness already present. With this, it's like, oh, like fun party stuff, and then things go wrong. And it kind of comes at you very suddenly. And so throughout the movie, I wouldn't say there's a huge sense of like dread that persists throughout. Although there is like a sense of like weirdness kind of throughout.
It's very much got an atmosphere to it, yeah.
It does, yeah. But it's not the typical kind of horror atmosphere that I would like recognize from seeing in a lot of other films. But the like 3 or 4 scenes that are gnarly kind of like horror that jump out at you and that people remember are wild. And for those alone, I would say this is like a 7 or 8 out of 10 on the scary rating.
That's what I was not going to say hoping for, but what I was like expecting based on my own reaction, because there aren't a lot of movies that really give me nightmares or anything anymore, or like distress me, or make me want to look away. But this movie did make me want to look away at points. But I didn't. because I'm brave.
There was one part watching it last night where I did actually look away.
Oh my god. I want to know which part, but we can get to that later.
Yeah. I'll let you know after right when we get out of the spoiler section. Okay, so now we are jumping into the spoiler summary. If you haven't seen the movie and you want to see the movie but you don't want to be spoiled, then go watch it. Come back. We'll still be here.
We gave you a solid 30-something minutes of podcast.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
A good amount. But cool. For the spoiler section, I'm just going to read from the Wikipedia.
Oh, yeah. A tried and true classic of the podcast.
Yeah.
Except when
just
it's
to
not.
make sure I don't forget things and we have the character names and everything. Just works for me, So sit back, relax as I tell you Astoria from our good friends at wikipedia.org. At a house party in Adelaide, Australia, Cole searches for his brother Duckett. When he finds Duckett and attempts to bring him home, Duckett stabs Cole and then kills himself. Then we get a jump, and sometime later, 17-year-old Maya is struggling with the second anniversary of her mother's suicide by sleeping pill overdose and her distant relationship with her father, Max. Mia, or is it Maya?
Mia.
It's Mia.
Mia, okay. Mia, her best friend Jade, and Jade's little brother Riley sneak out to a gathering hosted by Haley and Joss, where the main attraction is a severed and embalmed hand. Holding the hand and saying, "Talk to me," enables someone to communicate with a deceased person's spirit, while saying, "I let you in," allows the spirit to possess them. In order to prevent spirits from binding themselves to that person, someone else must end the possession before 90 seconds by pulling away the embalmed hand and blowing out a candle to cut the connection. Mia volunteers to go first and is possessed by a spirit that displays a menacing focus on Riley. Joss and Haley struggle to break the connection, and the time limit is slightly exceeded. Ecstatic over the experience, Mia joins Haley, Joss, and Jade's boyfriend Daniel at Jade's house the next night. Everyone except for Riley and James take several turns being possessed, invoking different spirits each time. Jade refuses to let Riley participate, but all of the others indulge. When Jade leaves the room, Riley insists and Mia lets him take a turn for 50 seconds. Riley appears to be possessed by the spirit of Mia's mother, who attempts to reconcile with Mia. Stunned, Mia stops the group from ending the possession in time to keep talking to her mother. Riley's body is overtaken by the spirits and they make him attempt suicide. He's then hospitalized in critical condition. This scene is also where Jade's boyfriend Daniel is possessed and makes out with a dog. And it's pretty gnarly.
It's pretty gross, yeah. The dog gets played up earlier on as being particularly disgusting as well.
Yeah, it's like a little
It's an
bulldog.
English bulldog.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Mia, now haunted by visions of her mother, is blamed for Riley's injuries and shunned by Jade and her mother Sue. Having secretly taken the embalmed hand, Mia offers Daniel to stay for the night at her father's house. Whilst platonically sharing a bed with Daniel, she witnesses a spirit appear and suck on Daniel's feet. When he wakes up, he instead sees Mia sucking his feet in a trance and leaves. Mia uses the hand to contact her mom, who insists that her death was accidental and that she needs to help Riley, who is still possessed and attempts suicide every time he returns to consciousness. Mia leaves the connection open and begins seeing her mother without the hand, losing her grasp on reality. The friends track down Cole, who explains that a living body naturally expels invading spirits. Mia, fearing that Riley may not have time, attempts to contact him in the hospital by using the hand, but instead shown a vision of Riley being tortured by spirits in limbo. At home, Max reads her mother's suicide note to Mia and apologizes for hiding the truth from her. Her mom's spirit tells Mia that Max is lying, and Mia hallucinates that she's being violently attacked by her dad, causing her to inadvertently stab the real Max, her dad. Her mom tells Mia that Riley needs to die in order to be set free from his possession. Mia kidnaps Riley from the hospital, and Jay sees Mia pushing Riley in a wheelchair towards the highway. Mia's mom attempts to convince Mia to push Riley into oncoming traffic, but instead Mia jumps into the oncoming traffic and lies badly injured on the road. Mia finds herself in the hospital where she sees a fully recovered Riley talking to Jade and Sue while Max leaves in an elevator. Nobody responds to her. She has no reflection in the mirror and her hands are disfigured. After becoming engulfed in darkness, she sees a hand extended over a candle in the distance. She grabs it and is suddenly summoned to a house party in Greece, where a partygoer holding her hand is urged to speak and tell Mia, "I let you in."
God, that ending is so fucking perfect.
It's really
cool.
good.
I think an important
you probably are about to say what I was
to
going to
make
say.
also, maybe, we'll find out. The first spirit that Mia sees is this drowned woman, and she's the one that possesses Mia for like over the 90 seconds. Throughout the movie, there's a lot of water imagery. There's a lot of rain and kind of like stuff to do with water and the sounds of water as well. And the further kind of we get through the movie, the more that Mia's mother starts looking bloated and disfigured, similar to the woman at the beginning. So it's kind of heavily implied that it's not actually Mia's mother. It's this bloated woman kind of like taking on the appearance to deceive Mia. I have so many hands raised. Nina.
It's also the Wikipedia review says that Mia jumps into traffic. It is, and I think I remember seeing slowed down footage at the moment. It seems like Jade might have pushed her to save Riley.
Yeah, I get that. I got that sense more this time that could have been what happened.
Yeah.
Me too, actually.
Noah, you have your hand raised.
I think the greatest evidence that we have that this is not Mia's mother returning and becoming a very malignant, mean spirit, outside of all the context clues of the movie and everything. I feel like this is a pretty standard issue rule for worlds like this, where good people's ghosts don't stick around to possess people and claw their way back.
Yeah.
Good people's ghosts are at peace with the fact that they have moved on and not laying any sort of morality around Mia's mom at all or anything like that and any of the situation.
Sure.
But I will say nothing that we know about her mom makes it to me seem like she would come back and possess her daughter.
Well, not to mention it's heavily implied to me, maybe to you guys as well in the ending, that Max also died but went to heaven and did not stick around and be stuck in purgatory and shit.
That was 100%.
And Mia sees him. Yes, Mia sees him get into the elevator with the up arrow and it sputters out and dies and she is stuck on the ground floor on Earth, basically. So to me, that's another sign.
Since in the movie, we see
Jade find him.
kind of find Mia's dad at the house after he's been stabbed and he's still breathing and kind of like holding like the wound. So I got the impression that he lived, but I didn't notice the elevator going up, so that
I was
could
say
be
with it
good
going up,
imagery as well.
That's enough evidence to make me consider the possibility that he
But
died.
also, like,
Yeah.
in that same, sort of, liminal hospital scene, right? When Mia is first looking around.
Great scene, by the way.
Yeah, right. She kind of sees Riley's recovery happen at sort of an accelerated pace, and she also sees real early on, I don't know if everyone would catch this necessarily, this old man in a different side room, and he's just kind of sitting very upright and facing a wall, motionless.
Yeah.
And he is the same guy that she saw in the hospital earlier on in the movie, and he was very much like on a ventilator, and like it's very
he was
clearly
not
given
getting
to
up.
us that he's like almost gone. So then when she shows up in the weird liminal hospital and she sees him and he's just like sitting there motionless, I feel like that's an indication that he's also dead. And with his presence there as well, I feel like that kind of emphasizes that, like, Max, who also is just walking away from her, just facing away from her through the entire scene, I don't know, it feels like an indication that he's also dead, to me at least, but...
Could be.
I see it.
But she
Either
sees
way.
Riley and everybody else as well.
True,
they
but
walk
they're like,
away. They go
they're
outside
doing
the
stuff
big
and they
white
face
door.
in other different directions, and I don't know.
Yeah.
They walk into the blue light.
It is clearly meant to be. It is clearly meant to be a little ambiguous, though. So, like,
Yeah, no, it's one of those things, just like whether or not Jade pushed Mia, that I think is like more open to interpretation. Are we starting our non-spoiler discussion? for our
think we have.
spoiler
We're
discussion.
in
Okay,
spoiler town.
you know
Well,
what else?
absolutely.
You know what else isn't open for discussion? This movie has some of the best like casual non-binary rep I've seen
That's
ever.
right.
Yeah.
We love
Haley
We love
is
Haley.
this absolute shitbag of a person.
Oh, yeah.
They're multifaceted. Like they
sure.
do clearly care about people, but I love them so much. It was so fun. And people they get brought into conversation as this person is hosting this party.
Because
they're an attention whore.
Yeah.
And then they are that through the whole movie, and they're fun and they have meaningful friendships, and they're not just like their identity isn't a plot device in any way, but it's still very clear who
And they're
they
also
are.
allowed to be an asshole.
Yeah, and they're allowed to be an asshole.
I feel like
and
so much like diverse rep is like, okay, these characters are going to be Mary Sue's and like the perfect embodiment of whatever. And
It's, you end up holding these people on like a glass pedestal because it's
Yeah.
like I put in my non-binary character
have to
because
do
I wanted
good
people to
rep.
know I'm an ally.
Yeah.
Well, I can't have the non-binary person be like rude because then, well, people will think I think non-binary people are rude.
Right.
So I got to make them perfect.
Yeah, it's
And it guts the soul out of what representation can be, because representation should just be, oh, this is how the world works, and normal non-binary people being included helps people realize, oh fuck, they're actually just people.
Yeah. And some movies get around those sorts of issues, like Bad Things, which is on Shudder, if any of you have watched it. It's
Not
billed
yet.
sometimes as trying to be lesbian The Shining. Every single character in the movie, they're all lesbians. And
Love
a
it.
bunch of them are pieces of shit, but that's okay because they're not the only one in the movie. It also has some of that like nice effortless non-binary representation. And that non-binary character also actually kind of a piece of shit, but it's like, you got to get into what
seeing a
all is
trend.
going on in the movie.
what I'm hearing is non-binary people. No, I'm just kidding. Haley,
Excuse me, 3 non-binary people. How do you feel about this? I
I
will
Seems right
talk
to
over
me.
you.
bitch, shut the fuck up. I really love Haley as a character.
Joss is very
I
fun
think
as well,
that
but
Joss is also very
love
fun.
Joss.
I love Joss and Haley. I love finding out through their frantic discussion exactly what has been going on with this hand this whole time is so fun. They're like, I don't know, I just got it from Duckett.
yeah.
I love them. I
asked
love
him
them
if I could
both.
borrow it. He said keep it.
I think those two are my favorite characters. The rest of the characters are really well developed and well written. Sue, the mother, played by the woman who plays Eowyn. Eowyn?
Miranda
Not
Otto, yeah.
Arwen.
Eowyn.
Yeah,
Yep.
Eowyn, which
Love
is
her.
like, it's fun. I forget how young the Lord of the Ring actors still are. She looks
Yeah.
pretty much
Oh, because
exactly
the
the same.
movies feel like they came out so long ago, and it was like 20 years ago.
It's the same with the
was.
Lost actors.
Yeah.
Like literally seeing whenever a Lost actor shows up, Michael Emerson's in the new Fallout series, and I saw him, and I'm like, he's still
There he
Michael
is.
Emerson.
Yeah.
Just a quick cut in. Has anyone watched Evil?
No.
Oh, I
Because
need
I
to.
saw season 1, and it was a blast, and then it moved to Peacock, and I haven't watched it since.
I've seen most of season 1, I think. And I didn't love it.
That's fair.
But I
had
think
a
I was
good
going
time with
into it expecting like more actual horror rather than kind of like cheese horror.
Yeah, it's definitely TV show horror versus, and like I mean like network TV, not like Mike
right,
Flanagan
right.
does a TV show. TV.
Not like Hannibal,
Yeah.
which is like some of the actual like most interesting horror I've seen in a TV series.
Well, Hannibal's cable horror. You can get
Are you
away with
bringing this
more
up
on
because
cable.
Michael Emerson is in that though, or
He is an evil.
Yes,
Yes,
he is.
He's
I
a
do.
Satan's lawyer. I want to say.
oh fuck yes, that's a perfect role for him.
I
This
do
poor
want to
man.
shout out Sue, Riley and Jade's mom.
Love her.
She's so.
She's my favorite character.
There
in the whole
are-
movie.
I'm a cool mom.
Yeah. I mean, there are like. This movie is about addiction in a lot of ways, and because the main character who's struggling with like these feelings and everything going on as a person of color, there's a lot of kind of commentary about that, and I think some of that is directly shown through Sue. And Sue pretty roughly like pushes Mia away, not physically, but like emotionally, and like blames her for a lot of things that are just like gross. But
Yeah.
Sue as a mom is hilarious. And I love her. There's a part where she assumes the kids are having a party because they have friends coming over. And she's going around threatening all of them, basically, or being like, oh, like, what time was the party happening again? She's
Don't
like,
worry, I know
whoever
about it
told me,
already."
I'm totally fine with it. I just, like, I'm trying to make sure I give you kids space. And she's being so clever with it. And all of the kids are like, we don't know what you're talking about. Because there's, like, not a party happening. But she's so clever.
Yeah, and
I
that's,
love her.
And that's
I
after
love
the
that
sequence
scene.
where Jade is like, "Oh, you going to bed?" And she's like, "Are you sneaking out?"
Yeah.
And she denies it, and she's just like, "Yeah, all right, we'll lock the door on your way out." And the moment that Jade exits the room, Mia, directly outside the doorway, not even trying to be quiet, goes, "So are we sneaking out now?" And you hear the mom from the other room go, "Bye, Mia."
And it's so that's what makes a lot of the tears in relationships so heartbreaking is that
There's so
you
much
can
understanding there beforehand.
you can see that like they genuinely do like each other and want to be around each other, and even in that last grasping for connection that Sue does with Mia right before the end of the movie, where she thinks that they're like connecting because Sue is finally apologizing for the stuff that she said to Mia, and you as the viewer kind of hope maybe she'll get through to her. She doesn't. But it's too little too late, but you still have this like it's still a heartfelt apology from Sue, and it's still a moment where you kind of hope for something on Mia's sake. And all of those relationships are really close. I think the most hurtful thing that is said through the movie is the stuff that Jade says to Mia.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot of stuff with the hand as a metaphor for addiction, the possession as a metaphor for addiction, and a lot of conversation being had about like grief and a lack of a support system and a lack of understanding of addiction pushing people further into addiction. I think it was really well done.
Yeah.
We were talking about this a little bit before the podcast. I saw several reviews saying that they felt like it didn't fully explore the metaphor of addiction. And here's my personal take, and I might be wrong, is that sometimes I think people expect metaphors to be Mike Flanagan, where it's like all out there and all discussed and nothing is left unsaid. And I love that Flanagan does that. Genuinely I do. I love that he wears his metaphors on his sleeve. We all know what each of his series is a metaphor for, or is an allegory of. And I think that sometimes when we get that much like open discussion of what an allegory is within we get these monologues like in House Usher about big pharma and about consumerism, and there's no monologue about addiction in this movie. And I think that because of that, some people maybe are not catching the nuances of each relationship within every single relationship that Mia has, and every single scene is part of the overall metaphor. And I think that it did it. I don't think that it wasted any time on or any like storytelling on stuff that did not add to the greater allegory. But that's what I think personally.
Yeah. Well, and also I think something that a lot of people skip over in talking about the addiction material in this movie is the way that so much of it, and I hesitate to say some of this because I fear that I'm going to sound like an old person. An awful lot of this movie sort of revolves around people always being on their phones. Because I mean, you all watched the movie. Every fucking scene, somebody's on their phone the whole time. There's
and
so
you know
many
because the flashlight is on, so you know they're recording.
Yeah,
I love
anytime
that
things
so
are happening,
much.
people are pulling their phones out and they're watching things. There's the one scene where Daniel, the boyfriend, is getting possessed for the first time. We watch all of that happen with a shot that's focused on the screen of a phone that's recording it, and we see him like actually blurry in the background. I love that so much. And the way that like every fucking scene, somebody's on their phone for pretty much the whole length of it. There's an awful lot of the way that Mia's grief and the way that she misses her mom, the way that she can't move on from having lost her, is shown through her like watching these old videos of her on her phone over and over. There's the scene where Riley like falls asleep watching videos on his phone. Everybody constantly in this movie. Every time that Mia is trying to like emotionally connect with Jade, what's Jade doing? She's on her phone and not paying attention the whole time. And I feel like this movie is very much drawing a parallel between that and the addiction metaphor presented by The Hand. And also, it's drawing a pretty clear line between that stuff and grief and inability to move on being tied to an inability to have genuine connections with the people around you because everyone is too distracted all the time. And it's kind of taking all these things and bundling them up into one big problem. And I think if you try to separate out a single piece of that problem, of course you're going to feel like the metaphor is incomplete. You're not looking at the whole thing, right?
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
And in a way, it all kind of gets bundled into it being not necessarily about grief or addiction or living in the past or an inability to move on from things or anything individually so much as it is about finding the bulk of your life in something that is not living the present moment. That's my thesis statement. I will not defend it.
Fair enough. I think that there's I think the strongest angle in this movie is like I think chosen family and the people who need what from each other at different points and what you say you're willing to do for people versus what you are actually willing to do for people.
Yeah.
Because I think that's reiterated a lot. And there's a lot of missing the warning signs until it's too late.
Yes.
There is so much of that, which is already present in the going over the 90 seconds and then is reiterated in Max not reading the suicide letter until it's too late. Sue not apologizing until it's too late. Them not stopping Riley with the hand until it's too late.
Or
like there is
when Cole's talking about Duckett and he's like, real friends would have seen the way that it was fucking him up and they would have said something, would have done something, and you didn't do jack shit.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
I think that there's a pretty consistent through line of not realizing what's going on until it's too late. So
yeah, there's and that connects very much to sort of a need for social acceptance thing, right? Because the whole reason that Mia caves and lets Riley take a turn on the hand is that he basically says, "I thought you were on my side." And because she needs him to think that she's on his side, she lets him do something that she knows he shouldn't be doing, that she knows she shouldn't let him do.
Yeah. I think everyone's relationships with each other, everyone's perceptions of each other and their social status plays into their actions. It never feels like I'm watching a character do something that they realistically wouldn't do. Like Joss and Haley packing up their shit, being like, oh, they're not going to let the kid do it. And then Mia's like, 60 he's like 60 seconds and Mia's like 50 seconds and he's like 50 seconds and Joss and Haley, who have been listening this whole time, are like 50 seconds.
Yeah.
Like everyone's
they love being the cool people with the hand.
It's so interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I think that this movie is really well written in that way, and that is part of why I'm so stressed about potential prequels and sequels is like whenever a story has such like intricate writing and a really good understanding of its original characters and their relationships with each other, it's like you don't really see like how could this get better? You know, especially from that regard. That's like lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I'm going to try and replicate this movie's success. It's like, I think a good example is Legend of Korra, because Avatar The Last Airbender is so good. And then you watch Legend of Korra and it's so clear that they don't know how to not do Last Airbender again.
I will defend Legend of Korra, Nina.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. Nickelodeon fucked them so
I'm talking
hard.
about the first season. I am talking about day one, because later seasons' biggest flaws are definitely studio oriented, but I'm talking about the positioning of Mako and Bolin and Asami and Korra to basically just rebuild the gang and basically pigeonholing themselves in storytelling for the rest of the entire story we're telling as being the gang again, because we have a pretty clear one-to-one with every original character from the gang. And that was what was really frustrating to me. Was like, we have an opportunity to tell an all new story in an all new setting with this all new like shit going on. And instead we're going to have Zuko 2 and Sokka 2 and like Katara 2, and it's going to be kind of frustrating because now Korra seems like the only original character really. And we have to deal with anyway. I have a lot to say about this, but functionally my frustration is that they set themselves up to comparison with The Last Airbender by making, specifically with the character design of Mako, he just looks like Zuko. There is no way around it. And like having this broody, angsty firebender and shipping him with Korra is such a clear like nod to Korrasami in the original that it's like, okay, we get it. I'm actually kind of here to do something new this time. And that's kind of like with this, where I'm like, this is such good character building. I'm afraid that they won't want to do something new. But I have a little more faith in these guys, I think.
I have a little faith. I would love, and this probably won't happen, but if it does happen, I said it here, and I'll love it, hopefully. But if the sequel is following Riley post-recovery a few years down the line, and he starts seeing Mia around, and she's kind of like haunting him almost, and he's taking it hard because he feels that he convinced her to allow him to do that thing that set their lives down a really dark path and ultimately got her killed, and he's struggling with like the guilt of that while being haunted by her, which he thinks is just probably like a ghost and kind of like his trauma, but it's also this very real thing that's trying to manipulate him. And we see that kind of like tension and those balances like played with. I think that'd be a really fun sequel.
It could.
I think it would be too.
And I would be all about it.
I hope
But
that's
I
the
don't
direction they
know
go
that
rather
we're
than...
gonna get that.
I think we are more likely to get a bodies with a cursed hand than we are to get
I'll be okay with that. You know
a
what?
continuation of Riley.
Yeah.
I'll take whatever and judge after, hopefully.
Yeah.
I'll
For
watch 'em.
sure.
I'm definitely down to watch him because I enjoyed this one so much. I think it's really fun to live in an era of in the past when you've had edgy movie guys making edgy movies, the movies that have been made, like Eli Roth, have been just bad, you know?
Sorry, Sean.
And because they're so focused on making, we're talking about cabin fever here, right? And stuff like that.
Again,
where it's
sorry,
like we're
Sean.
Did Sean like Cabin Fever?
I think he said he liked it, yeah.
I thought he
Oh.
said, well, I don't remember. Clearly
Me
I don't.
not remembering. Damn, Sean, that sucks for you.
If we're remembering
but,
your
like,
opinion wrong, sorry, Sean.
I might have to go look it up in the Discord when I'm done talking. But I'm talking about like guys who put so much of an emphasis on their characters being edgy fucks
Yeah.
and like trying to maintain this kind of persona through their filmmaking. Seeing stuff like Radio Silence and these guys making Talk to Me, and I feel like there are other examples of like YouTubers breaking into a film space, like Bo Burnham's 8th Grade. No, I sure didn't expect 8th Grade to be as like heartbreakingly real as it was, because Bo Burnham was an edgelord comedian, and then he writes weirdly, he creates one of the better representations of what it's like to be an 8th grade like girl. And it's like, and showing an in-depth understanding of what it means to be in your most vulnerable position in life as someone who already is going to be more vulnerable than others because of their sex. Like, there's a lot happening there. And it's like, I'm really glad that we live in this era where people who get their start kind of pushing the envelope continue to push the envelope, but in a productive way that challenges like perceptions of both themselves and of like society. So like it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I talk about the part where I had to look away?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so curious.
I don't know why it bothered me so much this time around, but the scene where Riley's in the hospital and wakes up and starts hurting himself again, where he's like slamming his head against the tiled wall and he starts bleeding all over the place, and then he starts furiously licking up the blood. When he starts, him licking up the blood lasted longer than I remembered.
Yeah.
And it just made my stomach kind of churn, and I had to look away like as he was licking up the blood, because I was like, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's rough.
Yeah. It's very rough. It's very, God, it's another one of those things where it's like a lot of the time when movies do gore, I think that no offense to Abigail, loved Abigail. There were a couple scenes where they were doing things where I'm like, oh, this is, I bet you think this is like super edgy and like fucked up. but honestly, it's just kind of cheesy to me at this point. Versus in this movie, it's like they're already doing something fucked up, and then it feels like every time that they have written a scene where something fucked up is happening, they ask themselves, how could we make this even worse?
And they accomplish so much by showing so little as well, right? Like the gore, the disfigurement that we get to see is rough as shit, right? But also, how much of that is actually in the movie? The vast majority of the really unsettling scenes, you don't see a lot of that at all.
But you do see
plenty, yes.
You do
But
not,
like,
it is not
well, but like-
implied that he's licking out the blood or implied that he's digging his fingers into his own eye socket. We do see that
shown
stuff.
up close and personal, absolutely, yeah. But like, the movie only really needs to do that a handful of times,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, when he's like smacking his head against the tile and stuff, we're watching the tile behind him crack and we're watching his blood on the floor. We're not watching his head split open or anything like that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
The way that we are in the earlier scenes where he hurts himself the first time. It's, I don't know, like connecting that to scenes like in the foot sucking scene. Before the foot sucking starts, the way that that spirit enters that scene, I don't know, there's something about her and the way that she acts before the foot sucking starts where she's just like crawling across the floor and her face is like burnt and her hair is all like stuck to her and she's just looking at Mia and like crying.
Yeah.
That's one of the most unsettling scenes in the entire movie to me. I don't even know what it is. There's just something about that it's just like, oh fuck, whatever she's about to do, I don't think I want to be around for it. And then all it is she's sucking on that dude's foot, and it's just like, well, what the fuck, though?
It's like, I mean, to be fair, I've never seen somebody suck on another person's foot until this movie.
Fair.
But it is not a visual I enjoy.
No, it's unpleasant.
It's very unpleasant.
And the setting that it comes out of makes it even more unpleasant.
Mm-hmm.
Emma, didn't you watch Love Lies Bleeding?
That's after this.
I did.
They watched this in theaters.
I forgot.
Yeah.
I was just trying to think of what other movies I've seen people like suck down some toes
feet.
on.
Sorry, hold on a
And
second.
Love Lies
No, do you
Bleeding
just
is one
have
of
like
them.
a library in your brain of movies with toe sucking in them?
Google what movie has toe sucking.
I hate this. Let's move on.
I'm gonna search that one in incognito.
Yeah,
actually, I don't want that in my search history.
To jump back to the phone thing just for a second and comparisons to other movies around this era of filmmaking, right? I really like the way that this movie has characters just have phones and it uses them for the purposes of the movie rather than what a lot of other movies do, where I feel like a lot of discussion that I see around an awful lot of other movies is like, how do they solve the phone problem, that kind of thing? Like, how do you, like in Bodies, there's a hurricane happening, so nobody's phone works. That's a plot point.
Mm-hmm.
And so many other movies are like either gonna, the last several
Abigail
years.
does that, and it's one of the most blatant versions of it that I've ever seen, and it's so fun.
Yeah, so many movies that have been coming out for the last several years have been either set in the 80s or have some kind of a weird weather event or, I don't know, an underground cavern of some sort. I'm sure a movie has done that. Something to try and take the phones away from the characters. I like the way that this one not only leaves them in everyone's hands and leaves them perfectly usable, but it like also uses them to play into all of its themes, uses them for actual plot development, makes everything happen just with them as a piece of things. I love
and
that.
people do call each other, and it never fixes things. Like the
never
cops
fixes
don't do anything because they can't. And Jade calls her mom the moment that she finds Max and communicates her with her right away. It adds to the tension. It doesn't get rid of it because I think a lot of the time, they want to be like, oh, if we had phones, it would ruin the fucking tension or whatever. Or it would give characters an easy out.
You're writing lazily. You're not adapting to the times is what that is. You got to actually use what you have. I like that a lot. I like seeing it.
Yeah.
I definitely understand the desire to just remove phones from the equation, but it's also so jarring to see a modern movie where they use phones like regular people, jarring in a good way.
Yeah. It feels like a movie that's set in the actual real world, right? Instead of the movie world.
This movie very feels like that.
Yeah, that's my
the
last
parties
thing,
feel like that too. Which is like, I was already going to talk about the party scene, but
good.
adding on to that. I think that the party scenes are very realistic. I feel like I'm there. I feel the like dynamics and the people who are just kind of sitting there watching everyone else have fun for a while and waiting for their turn to maybe be a part of it. I am kind of sick of party scenes in movies, like in it's so many, but specifically thinking of Scream, I think 6, where they have like a costume party. And I'm like, oh God, this is every party in every movie ever, where like at some point a guy takes a girl to a room and then we have that whole scene and it's like, in this movie, it's everyone in the same room, kind of awkwardly standing around in their different groups. Until someone says, hey, why don't we do a thing? And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the party scene with the song that went viral on TikTok because it just slaps.
The one with the montage?
Yeah, the montage. Because I feel like making the possession as an addiction metaphor work relies on believing that people would consistently do this to the point that something would eventually go wrong. Because if possession is just scary, then why would they keep doing it? And or why wouldn't they be so careful? Why would they let it get far? But to see them kind of losing themselves with it in the montage scene and seeing how much fun everyone's having, and like Haley and Joss aren't just letting everyone else do it and standing on the sidelines. They are putting themselves in the mix as much as anything else. Like, it's so good at showing so much in a short amount of time, the way that a montage should, in creating a narrative that is built by all of the individual characters and not just a couple intense scenes. We get to like, it's very effective and it works very, very well in showing you that, yeah, using the hand slaps actually. It makes you think to yourself, I want to be at that party, even though you know this is a horror movie and you know something's about to go wrong.
Yeah. And the way that it's shot makes it look like extra fun as well, right? Because every time that they're using the hand, they're always having the camera work do this weird, like, sudden, like, 90-degree snap things, like, or there's the one shot in the montage where it follows what, I think it's Daniel holding the hand. He's, like, in the chair and it's down on the floor, and then it, like, picks up and goes all the way down on the other side. Such a cool shot, such a fun addition to that little montage. With the exception of shots like that, apparently that entire montage got shot in like under an hour.
They just were literally goofing off and shooting it.
It looks like they were probably just having a blast with it.
I love
partying.
The shot of, I love Haley. We know this.
Are you talking
two of my favorite shots.
I know the shot.
Two of my favorite shots of Haley are Haley smoking a blunt through the hand.
Of course.
And Haley sticking their tongue through the hand's fingers. I love them so much. The first time I watched it, I was like, if Haley dies, I don't think I can watch. I don't think I'll like this movie anymore.
Yeah.
I need this. Because I'm so used to. Here's the other thing. I'm so used to watching ensemble movies where
the ensemble dies.
The ensemble dies. Especially movies like this, where it's like one at a time. People are.
Right.
I expected Riley to be the first of a line of like possession casualties.
Yeah.
And when instead it was narrowed down to being a story about Mia and Riley, and their experiences with possession and with hell, and as a fucking addiction allegory. And the only other potential even casualty that we get is Max. Yeah, I found that really interesting. I found that way more intriguing and engaging than if it had been an ensemble dies movie.
Yeah.
Where Joss and Haley and Jade and Daniel also like had to deal with this shit, and we had like cuts to everyone experiencing their own possessions. Keeping it contained the way they did. Yeah, I think that's underrated. I think it's like such a small thing you might not even think about, but when you compare it to so many other movies, it's like, no, that is interesting and good.
Yeah, and that's where the one review talking about how it had the potential to like reach a higher body count in a sequel or something, I was just kind of like, oh, you missed the point here. It doesn't need a higher body count. That's not the point. You don't measure the quality of a horror movie by the number of corpses in it. That's just not how it is.
Yeah, it's like, that's not what we should be striving for in sequels. Yeah. It's like, oh, more bodies? It's like...
Well, no, it's...
I understand that it's what happens. You know, you have to elevate your premise somehow.
But
this isn't a premise that you elevate it with extra... Well, this isn't a premise that you elevate with more bodies. This isn't a premise that you elevate with more like on-screen haunting.
Right. It's kind of like how but the body count in Flanagan like stories has gotten higher, but
Yeah, they rained from the sky in House
Piled
Usher.
up,
There's so
literally
many of them.
getting higher visually.
but like visually, yeah. But like that's not what makes each of his stories better than the last.
No.
It's not the greater stakes or the higher body count. It's the experience.
Yeah.
You can tell that he's gaining experience telling these stories and catching the tone that he wants to catch. I think that looking from Oculus to House Usher, it's like you can see like what he wanted to be able to accomplish with Oculus, and how by the time that we get to House Usher, it's effortless.
Yeah,
it's
every
like
episode
just
of
he
Usher
knows what
is
he's doing.
a little Oculus, in a way.
Yeah, exactly. It's the paranoia. It's the pursuit of information. It's like, but it's not as like stilted as an Oculus, where it's like I feel like we just are not getting it.
Yeah.
So yeah. 100%. I think that is what I would like to see from Talk to Me, is like just more confidence in the storytelling more than more body count.
And that's not to say that
Give
this one
me-
is not confident even, because like it's swinging.
Well, no, and I like Oculus.
Well, yeah.
So
Give me more wild, crazy body counts in the prequel without any lore explanation stuff. Give me more thoughtful kind of like delving into themes and stuff in the sequel.
Yeah.
I
Isn't
think
the
that would
prequel
be-
about Duckett?
Yeah.
Is it?
That's what I
Yeah, so there's not likely to be any extra bodies in that one.
I'm really interested to see, because we know Haley and Joss were Duckett's friends. All right, more Haley and Joss.
more Haley and
please.
Joss.
That's what I'm here for.
God, I love how little explanation we get about the hand itself too. Like the way that Haley and Joss have different stories even. They disagree about what they've heard and what they think is true. Like I like that a lot.
I did enjoy that. I also enjoyed the whole movie. I didn't even think about the potential that maybe the other hand was out there being used. And then at the end of the movie, it's like, well, there would be a second hand, wouldn't there? People have two hands.
Yeah, it's just
And it's like, oh shit, yeah.
it's got to
Do
be.
we think the hand at the end of the movie is the second hand?
I think that if you look at it, it's the other
It's
hand.
like visually different. It's still
Yeah,
a
No,
left
you
hand
don't. You
either
don't
way,
see
though,
the
isn't
hand.
it?
No, it's...
Well, but you can infer from the fact that Mia reaches out with her left
Yeah, with
hand.
Mia reaches with her...
Yeah, with her left hand rather than the right hand, which is what was being used.
No, the hand is a
Yeah,
left
'cause-
hand, and then the one at the end is her also reaching with her left.
I thought it was
Yeah,
the
it's-
other way
it's
around.
left
I
hand
thought she
both
was
times.
using
I
her
also-
right hand throughout the entire movie and then using her
No,
left
because
hand.
I had thought that initially as well,
I was
but
paying
it is.
specific
It
attention.
seems to be the same hand.
Okay, cool. Then I wonder how it got there and how much time has passed. I'm interested.
Right?
Well, Riley got better, so a decent bit of time.
Riley had
Well,
time to get
there's-
better. A hand can travel a great distance in that time.
Well, and she continued to keep walking for a while. If time is distorted, then it could literally be like years.
Time's got to
So-
be weird when you're dead.
Time has got to be weird
I don't
when you're
plan
dead.
on finding out.
Yeah.
Once I'm dead, I don't want to deal with time anymore.
That's one of the things I'm looking forward to, damn it.
From passing on into the abyss, I shall not be present.
Anyway, I don't know that I have anything else to say about this movie.
Nina says the conversation's over.
I'm
Noah
Nina
Noah
hasn't
says the
talked
conversation's
since
over.
gabbing
That's
the
not what I
ghouls.
said. I meant, does anyone else have anything
We
to
gotta
say?
end the
Noah's
podcast
been silent
now.
for an hour, and then Nina's like,
oh
"Well,
my
I'm
God,
done."
Noah
so
is breaking his silence.
I meant I'm
about
not going to talk
me.
anymore so someone else can talk is what I meant. Good God.
Noah, how do you feel having been silenced by Nina all this time? Damn.
for podcast
Wow.
listeners, I was silent for 30 minutes, and Jeff cut it out just now.
It wouldn't be
30
interesting to
full
listen to.
minutes.
30 whole minutes. Because of
It was an
Nina.
artistic choice. Thank you.
John Cage could
So
never.
I'm just going to talk about a couple like little things that I enjoy.
Yeah.
I love when they get possessed, they could just give them big black eyes, you know, but they don't. They have like a whole makeup look that makes them look like they got their face beat in.
Oh, yeah, it's so good.
And then the possession leaves their body and they look normal again. But I just think like it's like they look splotchy, they look dirty, they look almost bloody.
They look rough.
And it's really good. The DVD menu is just a loop of all of their possession faces. So I got a really good look at it while I sat there and watched it for 20 minutes. doing other things before starting the movie.
Right, right, right.
But I like that detail. I think that's a nice way to highlight something changing about them in addition to just, Black Contacts is a classic hit
Of course.
and it works. But I prefer the other very visible change as well, because it's like, oh yeah, because this is like kind of taking a toll on them. And even though they bounce back right after, because of course you bounce back right after, Mia also looks like shit at the end of the movie. She's not bouncing back anymore. But I think the main thing that I really enjoy about this movie is just like watching Mia, because at the very beginning of the thing, we can tell that Mia's not having a good time. She doesn't want to talk to her dad about it. But it's been 2 full years, which is a really long time for her to be playing this like silent treatment with her dad.
Yeah.
And it's bad enough that her social life clearly isn't working well, because she goes into the party, and after Riley is greeted with the, oh great, we're babysitting now, Mia walks in and Haley goes,
Oh, great.
oh, and she's here.
Yeah, Haley very openly dislikes Mia.
Yeah. Like pulls Jade to the side saying, why did you bring Mia? And Jade's like, oh, but she never did anything to you. And Haley's like, yeah,
but I can't
except for be a big fucking buzzkill. I do not like her. And, it's really sad getting a really strong, like, immediate placement of where Mia is in her life since the incident. And then watching her fall into this hole of, like, talking to her quote unquote ghost mom. And, like, there's a point where they're trying to just lay out all the info that they know about the hand. And at one point, I can't remember if it's Haley or Joss, says, didn't Duckett say it could imitate people? And Mia, totally not paying attention to the fact that the ghosts the hand summons routinely imitate people and pretend that they're something that they're not. Just goes, who's Duckett?
Yeah.
And then they go and they hit up his brother, who says, the less you use it, the better off you're going to be. The longer you spend between uses, the less of a hold the spirits have on you. But that's not what Ghost Mom said. So Mia's like, well, come on, guys. We got to try.
Ghost Mom.
Yeah, like when they go into the hospital again. And she's like, maybe I can talk to Riley's spirit because it's separated from his body. And everyone's like, what? No. Don't do that.
Yeah. She just starts making up her own rules to fit her. This is addiction. Making up her own rules to fit her own needs in the moment on how this is going to help her actually, instead of hurting more.
We hit this point where she was already in a bad place before we hit. So she's already coming into this with a really like unhealthy coping way of like dealing with tragedy, which is mostly to this point been like ignoring it and soldiering through. And then we're handed this really awful situation where she's like, I can be the hero. I can fix things. And before you know it, she's listening to the advice of, Riley's in a really bad place. Really, you should kill him. Killing him is probably the best idea in the given situation. And Mia's like, yeah,
that's
you're right.
Probably it. Yeah.
That's a normal thing. I should do that.
Yeah.
Because another big highlight for me, the hell scene.
The hell scene.
Oh yeah,
great.
we haven't talked about the hell scene at all.
Just a really fun little highlight of all the other practical effects in this movie. Can't stress enough that the practicals in this movie are really, really nice.
Yeah, and this scene especially is fucking perfect.
Bunch of people in weird old suits, being skinned, burned alive people going. Bleh.
There's a brief shot of what appears to be a woman eating a baby.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I did see that. Yep.
So
it's hell, so that happens.
It's a little Event Horizon in the best possible way.
Yeah.
It is a little Event Horizon in the best possible way. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. There's just a lot of layers in this movie that I really do appreciate. Like that. Just like it, I do understand people that would not like this movie as much because the misery porn industry of horror is a very saturated market.
Sure.
And this is a very miserable movie.
Yeah, and grief allegories have been so big for so long at this point that it's kind of like, well, all right, another one, come on, make movies about something
Babadook
else.
Came out in 2014. It's been 10 years of Babadook
Why
clones.
can't they make horror movies about Scottish people just living on a fucked up island anymore,
It has been 10 years of the like go-to like backstory for a main character in horror to be someone died in their life recently and they're sad about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I get that.
Which it's also not like it's a new concept.
No.
But
it feels like it's ramped up and been consistent, and it's kind of annoying. I like it in it is the thing that I like the most about the new Halloween trilogy is that the deaths between movies are of family members. It's like people that we thought were going to be through-line characters are just murked, and then their family members are left to deal with that. And I enjoy that. So when the grief comes up with like in Halloween Ends, it's like, okay, yeah, duh, this would be the next logical step for this character. And like Emma was saying, like if we get a movie about Riley kind of coping with what happened to Mia makes sense. But a lot of the times it's like, oh, we're starting a horror movie. What's the main character's backstory? Oh, their mom or their husband died. That's why I like The Bone Woman a lot. It was like it did play with a lot of grief, but it's not because anyone died.
It's a different flavor of grief.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of grief.
the death of your free life.
Yeah, the death of yourself that you were supposed to have been.
Which is fun, I say sarcastically. It was decidedly not fun.
It is painful, in fact.
Anything anything else you had, Noah?
I don't think. Oh, I love Sue. We talked a little bit about
Sue's
how great
fantastic.
Sue
I love
is,
her.
but Sue's a really great character. I love when she comes in and she's like, "Remember, Mia, if Riley drinks anything, you're never allowed in my house again." And she's like, "Well, there's no party, so and she's a very nice, good mom character. And then when she reacts so strongly against Mia, I get it, because it seems like everything that she's been like slightly worried about her, her daughter's friend who's going through a lot and has the potential to be a bad influence has come to a head. And she's like, I cannot deal with this right now. My son is dying in the hospital. And then at the end of the movie, she comes back and she apologizes about how she reacted. And she's like, you are family. It's such a bad time. And we're not trying to make things worse by excluding you from this. Thank you for being here. I know he would appreciate it as much as I appreciate it right now. And it's makes it even sadder, makes the ending hit that much more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The relationships in this movie are all just really well portrayed.
Yeah. Big time. Anything anybody else wants to say, or do we want to move to Noah's notes?
That's all I
I
got.
think I've said all of my things.
Let's hit up that Noah's notes.
Ooh.
Oh, yo, we're getting the songs back?
No.
No.
Well, all right then.
Okay, hold on.
Hanging around downtown, walking fast, reading some Noah's notes.
Okay, Noah says, boom, boom, boom.
Noah did not say that.
Noah does say that.
Was that
often?
that was the first note that you
That's
wrote,
in the
right?
notes.
I've never whomped in my life.
I
and
think
you
you
Then
did.
why
just
does it
did
say that
right
in the
now.
notes, Noah?
I can't believe I'm getting actually in two different ways at the exact same time.
Yeah,
it's
get
surround
blomped.
sound.
Get
Womp
blomped,
womp.
nerd. Anyway, Noah says, duck it time. This opening goes insanely hard. The opening is great. I love a good little aside opening, like prequel opening like that, where it's like, here's a little taste of what's to come. Here's what people are like what we're going to refer to in the movie is like that tragedy. TM. I love that. Noah says, God, the opening is so clean. One shot, perfect 2-minute hit of Bad Times.
Yeah, just fantastic.
Noah says, I forgot how much of the first time I watched this was me feeling uncomfortable at this opening party because it's clear Mia isn't really supposed to be here. Yeah. Everyone was like,
What's going
hello?
on? But then she wins them back by doing the hand, by being cool.
Yeah, she wins them back by
Peer
shooting up
pressure.
heroin in front of
my God.
everybody.
The Lou Reed school of social acceptance.
Noah
I'm the only
says,
one on this podcast who knows who Lou Reed is.
I know who Lou
Yeah, I
Reed
don't
is.
know.
I know who Lou
Sorry
Reed
to
is.
laugh
Don't do
loud
this.
enough.
Literally in freaking, this exact scenario happened to me. A man implied to me that I didn't know who Lou Reed was. I was like, come on, man.
He's just so
First of all, I work in a
specific.
music store. Oh, also bleep out the name of the store that I work at because I don't think
yeah.
I've said it on the podcast before. Noah says, who is that? I don't know. It's different every time, Lamau. Haley, everyone cracking up as she's freaking out, and Haley being like, dude, why are you asking
just
me?
saw a
Oh no,
ghost.
that's
Calm
Frank, the
down."
ghost that always haunts us.
I mean, maybe it is always Frank the ghost.
Yeah, I guess, Mia doesn't
Until
know.
Drowned Lady showed up, it may as well have always been Frank the ghost. Actually, that's another thing I like, is unless it's, if memory serves, right? Unless it's Mia, we don't see the ghost.
Yeah.
We only ever see
Mia's ghost.
I love that. The movie's so
because
committed to her as the
what
perspective
Daniel or
character.
whoever he does his and we just see from the side and he goes whoa, and we are once again very voyeuristically looking through a camera screen, and everyone's like, haha, yeah, that's right, don't look away, buddy. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Noah says, I want a plaster hand to smoke weed with. The fuck?
They do sell those.
Noah says,
$110 sold out.
No thanks. I'll make my
Sad.
own.
I will make my
I know,
own.
right?
It's actually not even that hard to make a plaster cast of a hand.
The hardest part would be writing down "talk to me" in 700 different languages and different colored markers.
Yeah, we'd have to. That would actually be fun.
Yeah,
Let's do that.
Actually,
I don't know that I actually want that in my house. Noah says, La Foule is such a great track for the We're Using Drugs montage of the movie. So the actual track is Le Monde. It's a remix done by a guy. I don't know who he
Well,
is.
that's not what the
Yes,
what the subtitles
because that's
said.
what the remix of it is from. It's really good. When it started going viral on TikTok, people were crediting the original or just calling it like the "Talk to Me" song, and he kept reposting it and being like, "This is actually mine. I did this. I worked really hard on it. Actually, please." He has it's
a
as far
solid
as
track.
I talk. It's really solid, and the full track without the party stuff, you'd think like, oh, it's one of those things. It's like great in the movie context, and then you listen to it on your own, and it's not good without the visuals. But he has a really good sense of like, even for just repeating the same like melody over and over again, he has a really good sense of isolating different parts of the track using just the piano, adding like really heavy like drum hits and bass hits at different parts that like add impact. So it's really a good
doing a little bit
solid
of that like
remix.
that like electro swing kind of shit.
Yes.
Love it.
I love it very much. I am an electro swing enjoyer. We know this about me. And I'm also an EDM enjoyer in general. So this is one of those things. I love that song. I'm glad Noah mentioned it because I love talking about it. I'm a little annoyed that it went viral on TikTok and not because of the movie, but you know what? As long as people are listening to it. Noah says, God, Riley's run on the hand goes crazy. The rest of the movie is so tactful and reserved up until this point, and then things absolutely go crazy. The plucking out his own eye, the head slam into the table, it's so wickedly brutal and looks really good. Yeah. Nothing more to say there. Noah has some stuff in here that he has said that just reiterates how good a lot of the consistent theming in this movie is, and what he said about Sue. I love Sue as a character. Noah said, Joe Bird kills it as Riley, honestly. I can't wait to see what he gets into as he gets older. I really want to see this guy's career develop. Yes. Riley, the character is well written and well acted. He's just a sad little guy. And I think it's one of those things where I fully believe why everyone reacts the way they do, why no one wants to let him use a hand, that he's really just this kind of soft kid and just kind of a gentle kid and a gentle person. And that's why everything in this movie works so well, because of the way that this specific character is written and acted. I think that everyone else is great, but I think Riley specifically makes the movie work because you do not want to, you buy it. You buy that Mia would do anything that she thinks she can do. Not just because of the family and being like expelled from it, but because she cares about Riley, because she was supposed to protect him and she failed him. Didn't Duckett say I could imitate people? Mia, not listening to anything important. Who's Duckett? Noah says, the suicide note is so sad, compounded by Mia sitting here and having a miserable time because she hasn't been coping well for 2 years anyway, but also because she's decided to listen to a ghost who's been lying to her from day one. Yeah, the fact that it's just too little too late. She has just started to buy into the ghost. The ghost has just started to actually tell her lies just in time for people to start trying to reach her. 2 years of not telling her about the suicide note, waiting for her to get really, really bad, and then hoping it would magically fix everything.
I don't think he was waiting for her to get bad. I think he was waiting for her to get better.
Right, no, exactly. But he decides maybe it would have, if he hopes it'll make her get better now that she is really, really bad. It's like, dude.
Well, I mean, he might not even know how bad the situation is because she's
not
not talking to him.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably like, listen, we got to break the ice somehow. this really sucks and it's been weighing heavy on me.
Yeah.
We're going to have the conversation. And then it,
But he did wait
Speaking
too long,
of,
I think.
the first scene that we see, well, that we kind of see him in, I guess, where Mia's like washing dishes and he's standing behind her and he's out of focus and he's trying to talk to her, but he keeps talking like just as she's turning the water back on, so she has to shut it back off and be like, what? That scene plays out really effectively, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Just showing like
Agreed. Sorry.
the distance between them emotionally and
Yeah, I agree. It's you see the wall.
yeah.
Yes. Noah says, I love that everyone who isn't a ghost is saying the longer you go between using the hand, the more the effects of the haunting dies down. And we clearly see Riley actually getting better. Meanwhile, Mia is being told, you gotta use the hand more. Noah says, the wheelchair to the freeway scene goes so hard. The crash goes so hard, but the lights in the hospital turning off while Mia realizes she's alone in the dark goes hardest.
Uh-huh.
And then he says, actually, watching her approach the candle in hand goes wild too.
That whole final set of scenes is just insane.
It sticks the landing. It's exactly the only way that this movie could have ended, and it hurts in the best way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Noah's notes.
Nice.
Any final thoughts?
Well, good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's our movie for next time?
Well, I believe we're watching Hellfest from
Hellfest.
2018.
Nice.
I've seen it before. I thought it was a lot of fun. Nina's never forgiven me for seeing it before.
He watched it without me. I was very sad.
Good news to all the I don't like Noah's thought out notes. I prefer his spur of the moment shit. I did take notes when I watched it. Just in case. So you're going to get a combination of the actual still like initial impression
vintage
notes.
notes? Holy
This
shit.
is actually
Vintage
really
notes.
fun. I'm
This
excited.
is crazy because we weren't even doing this podcast
Yeah.
back then.
We were.
Oh.
When I saw it, we were.
Okay.
I
So
took
it
notes.
came out in 2018, but you didn't watch it until later.
Yeah, I watched it in like 2021.
Well, yeah,
no, we were
if you-
here.
yeah,
so-
we were in Corey.
like 2 years ago. No, we were here.
Oh, were we? For
Yes.
real? Oh,
I watched it right here.
well, how should I know? I don't know.
Anyway,
anything.
though, I watched the movie and thought, ooh, we're probably going to cover this sometime soon. I'll take notes to save myself time.
Wow, that's paying
Yeah.
dividends now.
It really is. Look at that.
I haven't done it with another movie since. It's just that one movie. I'm like, this feels like the right movie to do it
I
with.
will say you've been doing letterboxed reviews for things that you've been watching. So,
No,
like,
it's not the same.
in the future when we come back to that.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I can be like, 9-star Noah says that this was the greatest movie he's ever seen. The rewatch has proven this to be a lie.
It's always funny when that happens, to be fair. Okay, so next week, Hellfest. I already know some of the ghouls that I'm preparing to gab because I have a lot of movies I want to watch this week, so I'm excited. Yeah. I've been Nina. I'm not even the host, but I'm going to go first. I'm Nina.
Yeah, go for it.
Nina Wolverina. You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, on Blue Sky, and on Tumblr at Nina Wolverina with a 3 where the E is. I post art and I write books. I have 3 books out. 2 are dark fantasy. 1 is a gothic horror romance. And hopefully I want to have a teaser out by the end of the month for my new horror project so that I can stop working on it for a second and finish this fantasy trilogy. So keep an eye out for that on the socials.
So much for the
I'll
I'm just
also-
going to work on it a little bit at a time when I feel like it and I'm not in a hurry
am.
to get it out.
I am.
Nina
I just feel
happens
like
to feel like it.
no, I just feel like getting this this is the first chunk that I have had a solid beginning to end thought on. It's not even like a full part. It's maybe like a chapter and a half. But it feels like a really good introduction to the world and the characters. And I'm like, I kind of just want people to be able to like meet this character and see what this world is going to be like so that I can like get that out there and I can retreat back into
Right,
my like established
Just
world.
like, here,
but that's
taste
where
my
I'm at.
brainworms.
Literally. Here,
But
let's
then the chapter's gonna go viral.
Obviously.
And
I better
you're gonna get a
fucking
bunch
not.
of pressure to finish the
From me.
story.
Jeff's already slowly applying pressure. They twist a little vice grip on my head every night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nina makes 3 Stooges noises as I crank it.
Noah's turn.
I'm Noah. You can find me as Bubba the Bad, BUBBADABAD. Twitch, Blue Sky, Letterboxd. Twitter, Blue Sky, Letterboxd. I don't know why I said Twitch. That was weird. It's the carryover. Anyway, yeah. Continuing along with ye old watch one movie a day for the entire year, if my internet was working, I would let you know what movie I'm up to. Instead, I have to delay while I open it on my phone, whose internet is fine. I have watched 129 different movies this year.
Wow.
Dang.
I've watched 130, though, because one of them I watched twice.
Of course. Right. Which one was that?
And we are Love Lies Bleeding.
Ah, naturally. Okay.
What day of the year is it? Is it like day 110? We're about to find out.
I don't know.
112. I am currently 17 movies up.
Whoa.
Let's go.
And about to be way more than that because aren't you doing a final movie day?
I do have a movie day coming
That's
up.
true.
Yeah.
That's
A
coming right
final with Rob movie day. Salute to Rob,
Salute.
everyone.
R.I.P. Rob.
Rob's
Salute.
moving to Baltimore and will not be driving over for an all-day movie
Ew.
day, if you can
That's
believe
'cause
it.
he's Twitter.
I'm just saying, who's stopping it? It's not me.
I am Jeff. You can find me on Tumblr at What Is It You Pray For, and on Letterboxd at The Fakest Fan, where I am actually remembering to log movies, but unfortunately I'm watching slightly fewer movies these next couple of weeks because I'm getting ready to move.
Oh, you
Womp
are?
Yeah,
Womp.
just to a different part of the same town that I currently live in, though. Yeah, a
Okay,
better apartment
nice,
than my
cool,
current bullshit
fun.
apartment with a bullshit oven that I am really looking forward to not having to use anymore, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. Fun. And I'm Emma, also known as Emma Panada. You can find me on, I'm just going to say Twitter at Emma Panada, although I don't even really post there anymore. I haven't been using social media consistently for a while now. But you can also join our Discord, and you can find me and talk to me there. But thanks so much for hanging out, everybody. We really appreciate it. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Boom, blam, blomp.